So, well, we're back with our, what I should say, detour into this book, Reconstruction, which we started. The introductory part of it was there. So, the first part of the lecture, the first chapter, which is knowledge and religious experience. So, before coming to what you mean by knowledge in the Iqbalian sense, so you can say and religious experience. So you can, if we want to understand how Iqbal would want to place religious experience in the general schemata of how we construe what we know or what we understand knowledge in the broadest sense of the word. So he starts with a set of curiosities which are there innately as humans having, but you can say as different modes of expressions where he normally categorizes knowledge vis-a-vis religion, poetry, philosophy, and higher poetics. And there is a sort of bewilderment or wonderment or a sort of amazing mystery which has to be celebrated in some sense, where he wants to he implores and explores some questions like what's the nature of the universe, how are we related to it, and what can be the best ethical way in which we can live in this universe. So, if the point of Iqbal is that knowledge, the way we can describe knowledge, the epistemology or the foundations of the knowledge in the broadest sense of the word, and how as humans we can approach or appropriate or uncover those mysteries of being, as well as those expressions which we arrive at while trying to give meaning to those questions. Where philosophy, poetry, and religion may be broad categorizations. In the start of Iqbal, if I just say what Iqbal wants to say is that, for example, what is the conduct that befits the place we occupy? And these questions being common to religion, philosophy, and higher poetics or poetry. So, for example, in literature, for example, since he was being a poet, so I'll here try to mention that. So, in the history of the way in this Iqbal discourse, he has not only used medieval scholastics, Greek philosophers, Muslim theologians, cutting across disciplines to define the way we can define philosophy in the broad sense of the word, or the relationship of philosophy and religion, where he not only quotes some modern thinkers like that of Whitehead to forward a certain viewpoint where religion has not to be necessarily relegated to background or subservient to the methods of philosophy primarily, or modern doctrines of scientific empiricism, which have won in some sense. In the early part of the 19th century, it seemed that some empiricism or empirical philosophy or scientific empiricism and positivism had won, and the mode of philosophy, if I quote Wittgenstein, the aim of philosophy has only to remain as an analysis of language in that sense. So you can say Iqbal is trying to rescue or revisit the dominance of philosophical method in principle. Philosophy of scientific method dominated by empirical and skeptical method. he wants to just say that it cannot be inferior to the way we can define religion in the broadest sense of the word, as an inquiry, as an expression to the ultimate questions of life and our place in the universe. So even though he's a literary person, so literature, if I quote him, for example, he also says that what I should say, the kind of knowledge that poetic inspiration brings is essentially individual in character. It's figurative, vague, and indefinite. Even though poetry he considers as of pristine kind, sometimes if you can say sometimes not only literature or poetics, it can just amalgamate or synthesize grammar, literature, logic, theology, in the very etymology of words, how poetics as a poetic expression comes into being. It's a unique synthesis of what I should say, grammar, logic of the words, and which includes theology in some sense, how you can perceive the ultimates of the world in some crisp expressions, maybe. So, but for Iqbal, it may be figurative, or it may be vague or individual. In that sense, it may not come up to the resonate. It may not come up to the realities which he's trying to, what I should say, come to, which he finds religion primarily in that sense. So here he, for example, says in one of the sentences, the religion stands in, even though he has given religion at a pedestal, at a point which may be more, what I should say, higher in his scheme as compared to philosophy or as compared to poetry. But the religions in the earlier part of the 19th century, so it had been displaced from that, not if not eminent, that preeminent position in that sense, with the discourses which were being generated. So in that context, what his aim is to say that a religion stands in greater need of rational foundations of ultimate principles in that of dogmas of science. So for him, religion stands at greater need. So the point of rationalizing religion is the greater need of the time. But that rationality should not be such that we should give science the preeminent position, which will come what he wants to say, that you cannot, since if religion deals with the ultimate things of the universe, ultimate expressions and the wholeness of that reality which it has captured, the aim of philosophy is not to resolve or absolve anything. In the process of trying to question or answer things, it leads you to a sort of inadequacy or a sort of incompleteness, because in the very nature of definition of philosophy, you need not necessarily to resolve. You can be that attitude, being comfortable with the process of questioning and the dialectical process of questioning and answering and questioning and answering. So you have to be the very method inquiry in that sense has to be, you are to be comfortable with, as compared to the way the ultimate being, the questions of being, the questions of religion. So you need to be resolved at some point, at some level, and for that, if we want to be resolved, or in that sense, in certain areas where religion has to be there. So his aim is that, what I should say, religion stands in greater need of rational foundations of those ultimate principles than the dogmas of science. So here, what Iqbal wants to say is that science may ignore a rational metaphysics, and it has ignored it so far. So it's a very important poignant point that, and which has continued up to this time, that the metaphysics of empirical philosophy, by which scientists, or whether physical scientists or any scientists, tries to what I should say, dig into nature, the sort of peculiar rational logic, skeptical elements, scientific empiricism, the very whole body modicum of scientific understanding. It doesn't question. So there's a consensus, if I would say, in the whole of the 20th century, and it is continuing up to this time, that scientific empiricism. So if we just want to relate metaphysics with being or existence, or so if world is empirical, so whatever beyond the empirical, you will always arrive at empirical. So there's metaphysics, qua metaphysics. Being should also be empirical. So that's not a consensus that has been unconscious consensus arrived by scientists of 20th century, or it is heavily continuing 21st century. So here this point is very interesting, or in the way it says, science may ignore rational metaphysics. So it's not impending. So you need not to question in the very empirical way of looking at things. And it has ignored it so far. So till 1950s, or into, you can say it, there are alternate ways of trying to question scientific method. Like there is this like against method. So there can be various philosophers of science, from what I should say, Fairyland to Noita, so there's a huge scholarship to it, whereas the consensus, or what I should say, the paradigm of scientists, that consensus is there. It should continue in the wake of impending things which have not been explained, or lot of developments in science which are there. So as compared to the metaphysics, whether we should go, so for him, religion can hardly ignore the search for reconciliation of opposites and experience and justification of an environment in which humanity finds itself. So religion has some metaphysics which may be which we have not to ignore in that sense. So here you can say, for example, so the first few pages of this book, Iqbal is trying to see that how can we can not give necessarily religion has to be kept as at a superior pedestal in the sort of reflective synthesis it's aiming to achieve at, to understand the wholeness or the purposeness or the essence of that being, ultimate principles. While in case of so in the background of trying to understand this discourse within the rationalism of Islamic theology, or Islamic rationalism, if I can say that way. So, for example, he says a careful study of Quran, various schools of scholastic theology that arose under the inspiration of what I should say Greek thought, disclose the remarkable fact that Greek philosophy very much broadened the outlook of Muslim thinkers, and on the whole obscured the vision of Quran. So here I'll just try to say what he wants to say in the background of. So you can say in the background. So Iqbal is not discussing what he is the background discourse of medieval discourse. How you can say broadly Aristotelian discourse, and post-Aristotelian peripatetic school, which was taken by Ibn Sina and the whole developments to it. And in the later stages, how Ibn Sina, Farabi, before Ibn Sina, Farabi, I'd say, or Kindi, then Farabi, Kindi, then Ibn Sina, and then we can say different schools which like Ibn Rushd and Imam Ghazali and then Ibn Taymiyyah. So sort of thing which just emerged, the scholastic discourse which was there to understand these fundamental questions of what is nature of the universe, what is existence, what is the relationship of its creator to the universe, and these notions of how universe and creator are related, and the question of eternity in that sense. So the point which Iqbal wants to say that in the medieval Muslim scholastics, they were very much immersed in the way when the process of translation or transliteration took place, the sort of Greek, the Aristotelian discourse which was there. So the point is the questions which were, for example, the way Farabi's how he understood Plato and Aristotle together. For example, he used words like categories, which are called maculat, on interpretations, prior analytics, post analytics, dialectics, which is also called jadliya, sophistics, which are known as maculat, rhetoric, which is known as khataba, poetics. And though Farabi excelled in logic, politics, and metaphysics, so the concept of qiyas, or concept of demonstration, or burhan, which was very part how we define things, which were and how Farabi introduced logic as a mode of inquiry. So where, for example, Farabi took recourse to, for example, power to conceive the intelligible, both in practical and theoretical fields, power of outer speech or expression of spoken language, tasawwur, tasdeeq. So these ideas, how they have been. So in that sense, you can see how they interpreted relationship of region, relation of revelation with the reason, where you can say how Farabi tried to see revelation as somewhat not entirely extra rational, a sort of sensate thing. And in that sense, how they try to understand these questions of eternity of world, denial of knowledge as particulars, and how the other questions were addressed. The point I want to emphasize is that the very important question which was there in that sense is that how in Aristotelian discourse the universe was considered as eternal. So if it was eternal, how the eternity of the universe had to be incorporated into the eternity of the universe. Because there has to be, if the world is eternal, the universe has to be eternal, then it contradicts with the eternities of the universe. So then there is a classification which Ibn Sina attempted it. One is the eternity with cause, and other is eternity without cause. The eternity without cause he calls as creator, and eternity with cause he calls as creator. But these things had their own problems. If you read Ibn Rushd and Imam Ghazali, the way Imam Ghazali tries to see the causation and the prime causation, causation with more or prime more, has problems with the understanding of teleology. How we can, so if I'll just quote, so if I quote, for example, So it's a bit terse. The existence of world is possible before its existence, since it's impossible for its since it's impossible for it to be impossible and then to become possible. The possibility has no beginning, and that is, it's established that world's possibility never ceasing, since there is no temporal space state whatever in which the world's existence can be described as impossible. There is no single moment of time where its creation could be conceived, but if it's supposed to exist in eternity, it would not be temporally originated. So this is the way Imam Ghazali tries to critique Ibn Sina, in that context, the notions of how to see Aristotelian way of looking about incorporate the eternity of universe with the eternity of the creator, which has some problems attached to it. And there is a huge so here, what the point I want to emphasize, the point I want to say is that what Iqbal wants to say is, for 200 years, the spirit of Quran was anti-classical. So you can have, there are various Quranic verses where the creation, God said that world be, and it was be. The way you can have seen. So in the Quran, he is Hayy Qayyum. He can create a universe in ex nihilo, out of nothing. It's one of his sifat. So the point is, there were a lot of ayats in Quran where you could have supported creation of the universe as compared to the evolution of the universe. Yeah. So, for example, there somewhere Ibn Sina or says that, for example, if there's a possible world, if there's a world, but it cannot be world. It should have been world existing prior to existing in the world. So this means that it should have been existing with the creator. I am not remembering exactly. So there is some sort of a contradiction which comes. So the point is, if you could have Quranic verses which could support creation, so why did these mystics, why did these scholars or philosophers try to see the coterminity of existence of universe or existence of time as a property with the existence of the creator in that sense? So here Iqbal wants to say that after carefully reading his Quran, that spirit of Quran was anti-classical. But so even though he is saying that spirit of Quran is anti-classical, but he is not the critique of Imam Ghazali, of Ibn Sina and Aristotelian school, or the way even Ibn Rushd went wholesome for Aristotle and tried to rescue Aristotle against Ghazali. So all these attempts somehow were and trying to see a reformed way of trying to understand religion or God or Creator or Islam. So they might have in Ghazali's scheme, he might have been able to, what I should say, the day for his theological his belief system or his edifice, but in the process, what Iqbal sees, Ghazali based religion on theological, philosophical skepticism, a rather unsafe basis for religion and not wholly justified by the Quran. So this is a critique. So even though the aim might have been pure, or the ends what he achieved of trying to recast or trying to rescue religion was fine, but the methodology had some baggage attached to it, the baggage of skepticism, philosophical skepticism. And for example, for Ibn Rushd, he defended Greek philosophy and took a viewpoint of Aristotle on the doctrine of active intellect, which is opposite to the Quranic destiny of human ego. So these sorts of so even though what I should say for Iqbal, Uh, so here, so this is the problem. So the problem here is. So, for example, even before coming to say how Iqbal would want to see things. So for Imam Ghazali, for example, he talked of some universals. Those universals have been also talked by Ibn Sina. And for example, so he talks of natural universal, kulli tabi, logical universal, mantaki kulli, intelligible universals, kulliya akli. Yes. So explicating that doctrinal effects coexist along with him, not being posterior to him in the limit in the way effects coexist along with cause and light, along with the sun. So the eternity of God is without a cause, whereas eternity of the world with cause. God is eternally and perpetually. Uh, Nothing upon the world with a cause. So, if, for example, in modern Western philosophy, it was Hume who refuted the law of causation on empirical grounds. And maybe Aristotle tried to reconcile a religious belief with the Aristotelian doctrine of being as prime mover and co-eternal with him, which passes from a potential being to the actual being in that sense. So, in the sort of barrage, in the scheme of discourses, the Kalam discourses, which were not only speculative, which were dialectical, scholastic theology, which not only includes Mu'tazilite discourses and Israelite discourses, which had prior analytics and posterior analytics. Here, for example, demonstrative proofs, which are normally associated with logic as compared to metaphysics. For example, in metaphysics, the understanding of prior principles, they have to be accepted as such, while in case of mathematics or geometry, you have to demonstrate, or that Grohani logic becomes paramount. But in these questions of eternity or the creator or the creation of the world, in that sense, one has to take a recourse to these metaphysical ideas, metaphysical, what I should say, doctrines, which might have metaphysical principles. So, in the words of Immanuel Kant, so he says that laws of metaphysical principles have yet to be discovered. So, if it's in late 18th century, so people in 11th century, 12th century, 13th century, they were trying to formulate those metaphysical principles in the language of Ibn Sina as some existences. One is necessary existence, one is contingent existence, something called wajib al-wujud and mumkin al-wujud. So God as a creator creates the possibilities in the universe, various possibilities in the universe, and various and in those possibilities, once there is something which is God is as a possibility is a necessary existence, and world is a possible existence. So necessary existence is having a cause. It can come without a cause, and possible existence has to be attached to that cause, wajib al-wujud and mumkin al-wujud. And in that processes, there come the theory of universals. There are some universals which are universal universals, and there are some universals which are particular universals. And particular universals can just accommodate these contingent existences and contingent possibilities in the universe. And yes. So this is it. So in this entire background discourse, we can see how what I should say. Allama Iqbal is also trying to, in the earlier part of the 19th century, he is trying to see various discourses. The only point being that he is also trying to see the whole new developments in physical sciences and other things, the whole revolution of earlier 19th century. The quantum mechanics had come, the relativity had come, and the whole logical positivism and empiricism. Under that shadow, these different schools had come. So how they just affected the background discourse, the theology, the falsafa, the kalam discourses. So they were stagnant in some sense, or ossified in some sense, in that sense. Or maybe he might have not been aware of how to relate these background discourses to the current. So the cut was there in that sense. So the dialectical reasoning, which was maybe a right of theologians in that sense. So how to connect? So you can say these discourses. There's a particular language which are known as Aqli and Naqli sciences. Aqli science. So there's a particular. If I use the words of Dr. Shabir Ahmad Usmani, he has written this wonderful book, Aql and Naql, short book. So Aqli sciences and Naql. What's Aql and what is Naql? So the sciences of revelation and the sciences of reason, which also has a big, the way Ibn Taymiyyah also tries to say, that Aristotelian scholastics or Aristotelian syllogistic reasoning is adequate only, it can be possible only for universals which are abstract universals. But the universals, when they are related with the empirical universals, the Aristotelian syllogistic reasoning has to be inadequate in that sense. Yes. So in that sense, you can say Paul is trying to make sense of kalam, speculative, dialectic, and scholastic theology, where he could say how, for example, if Ibn Taymiyyah did not reject syllogistic reason per se, rather he rejected the idea that divine or special revelation could be validated by purely human and Greek, and hence non-Arabic syllogistic construct or process of ratiocination. So the way Ibn Taymiyyah had arrived at the limitations of Greek syllogistic, Aristotelian syllogistic reason by some other method. So Iqbal is also trying to say that those methods are inadequate, and but via some another route, or for having some different motivations. So the point where Iqbal is trying to is rescuing in that sense. He is trying to rescue rationalities. For example, he is trying to say, Quran, it took 200 years to put the Quran, that spirit of Quran is anti-classical and result of a perception was a kind of an intellectual world, the full significance of which has not been realized in present day. In that sense, so you can say the spirit of Quran being anti-classical. You can say it has to be seen. If Iqbal is also quoted. So, for example, if you go to various verses in the Quran, that there is, have you not seen the coming of day after the night? Have you not seen the way ships are moving in the water? Have you not seen in the bee? So which Iqbal has also quoted the bee, the intelligence in the bee, how to create that. It has a very intricate that mathematical structure by which those pentagonal structure is being created. So the innate wisdom which can be appreciated by an observant mind, as compared to the Greek or the Platonic or the Aristotelian mind, which was more interested in abstracting things or logicizing things as compared to the empirical part of the things. How can empirically uh, construct things in that sense? Yes, yes. For example, the alternation of day and night, the clouds, the starry heavens, the planets swimming through infinite space. Yes, yes. So, a true disciple of Socrates, Plato's despite sense perception, which in his work yielded more mere opinion, no real knowledge. Here, the point I want to make is that maybe Iqbal is trying to say these things, but he is also somehow missing. Even though 20th century science was basically empirically driven on sense perceptions, but the logical positivism or skepticism, which was agnostic or atheistic in that sense, it could also take into account the empirical part of the thing. So the exact background discourse, should it be needed, what I should say, the positivism, the skepticism. And so if you can have a theology which supports the observant, being what I should say, uh, being observant and being what I should say, the it's Iqbal somewhere says that knowledge is sense perception explained by reasoning or logic something. So sense perception, there's an emphasis of sense perception in the whole. There can be huge, there can be a number of Quranic verses to that effect. But the point is, the way trajectory of late 19th century of post-Kantian, I think had so the idealism was taken to the background. So the empiricism or the sense perception and explaining of this world, physical world. So its relation to the background discourses of skepticism, positivism, pragmatism, evolutionism, in that sense. So he is not, Iqbal is not entirely trying to just allude to them, but he is also trying to say that the spirit of science is more or less the spirit of science can be, or the empirical, the sense perceptions and the logic which supports can be accommodated in the spirit of Quran, and which is also in somehow what I should say, the way medieval theologians or medieval discourses have been there. Uh, the way post Aristotelian discourses of Ibn Sina, Ghazali, or Ibn Rushd, so they come with a baggage in that sense. So if we have at all come to express the what I should say, discourses, if we have at all come to the spirit of age, we have to come to the closer message of the Quranic message, spirit of the message, which is very much empirical. And as compared to the discourses which we are having this, for example, so you can have, for example, there's one important point which Iqbal says. So the more constructive among the Ashrite thinkers were no doubt on the right path and anticipated some of the more modern forms of idealism. Yet on the whole, the object of Ashrite movement was simply to defend orthodox opinion with the weapons of Greek dialect. So the Greek dialect was that of logic, the demonstrative logic in that sense. So the point is that so medieval theologians had rescued their own thought process in their own theology, but taking selectively Greek thought process in that sense, selectively using it, where Iqbal is not also. And as compared to Ashrites, Mu'tazilites also considered religion merely as a body of doctrine, and ignoring it as a vital fact, took no notice of the conceptual, non-conceptual movements of approaching reality, and reduced religion to a mere system of logical concepts, and ending in a purely negative attitude. They failed to see the domain of knowledge, scientific or religious. Complete independence of thought from concrete process is not possible. So we can say, yes, Mu'tazilite took a different turn of things, the way in the history of the way Ash'arites, Mu'tazilites, and Maturidi's and whole these different schools, how they also which includes those Aqli and Naqli discourses. For example, in two prominent discourses of Mu'tazilism and Ash'arism, where we can have classical and refined Mu'tazilism, and we can have metaphysical kalam. So there is this notion of essence and existence distinction, which was the contribution of Ibn Sina in that sense. How he just bifurcated essence from the existence in that sense. Yes. So these were some of the points in that random, that sketchy sense, where we are trying to make sense of how Iqbal is trying to he's trying to make sense of how he could somehow see the way in the first place, how he tries to, way he quotes Whitehead, the great aids of faith have been great aids of reason. He's trying to say that how he is trying to rescue or recast or that original thing, religion, how he tries to define religion in that sense, and how he also tries to see the developments in contemporary sciences and contemporary knowledge schemes and philosophies, where he wants to place religion also. So the way in the hierarchy of sciences, the one point which I want to say is that in the whole discourses, which was started by Farabi, first of all, the way he tried to give hierarchy sciences, which are superior sciences, which are theoretical sciences, which are practical sciences, which are metaphysical sciences, and then there is a hierarchy of sciences. Mathematics comes first as compared to physics, or physics comes first as compared to music, or where theology and metaphysics can be rehabilitated. So the debate of essence and existence, or ontology, in the way 20th century think, the way things developed, the sort of materialism, the sort of thing. Earlier part of the 19th century, things were going in some different sense. What I should say, the way Nietzsche's discourse of God not being there. Human destiny can be in your own hands. Human capacity to just see things without some superior guidance, or without just recourse to that sacredness which we associate with nature, or this categorification of Aqli and Naqli, one being rational and other being supra-rational. And the domain of religion being supra-rational, it encompasses that reality, ultimate realities. So the spirit of age was maybe against it. So Iqbal is trying to come. So he's making a very carefully trying to negotiate, and trying to first see in his own tradition and in the Greek tradition how he can see things. But he's not also satisfied with his tradition, how they tried. They were for 400 years under the barrage of Greek and Western scholastics, gone overboard in trying to interpret Quran in their own way. But simultaneously, he is not also satisfied with the way on their own way, and also the discourses which had attendant. Even if they solved some problems in the process, they created other problems. But simultaneously, he is also not satisfied with the way Western science or modern science has evolved. In that sense, pure rationality, pure analytical way of looking at things, devoid of any that mystical or that religious need for that objective need for that way of looking, the way religious discourse wants to see things, and trying to say that we have to accept the modern thing, sciences and whatever the discourses, the spirit of the modern 20th century, which is based on sense perception, but less the background discourses. The way he was against those medieval discourses against the spirit of Quran, he is also wanting to accept the modern, what I should say, scientific way or empirical or sense perception, the way we emphasis of modern mind on sense perception, minus the discourses and which are attached to it. And the discourses he wants to, what I should say, reconstruct is the Quranic faith in Quranic discourse. How Quran sees fundamentally things in that sense. So this is the point which I wanted to say. Yes. And now one important point which I sort of missed is maybe is that, for example, the way Allama Iqbal would want to see on the creation ex nihilo, which is a Quranic way of also looking at things, and the way Ibn Sina and Imam Razi, Ibn Sina and what I should say, Ibn Rushd, or even Ghazali also trying to, so they try to see eternity of the universe. With the eternity of the creator, it had some problems. There are intrinsically some problems which are attached to it. So how does it all come in the 20th century or 21st century? For example, did the universe have a beginning? If I quote one physicist, Alexander Velikin, or did the universe have the beginning? Or will you after the aftermath of a Big Bang? Yes. So nowadays there is a theory of inflation. So whether the universe exists prior to inflation, or there was an eternally created, it is an eternal inflation. What happened before inflation? Yes. What was the incredible period before Big Bang? So a lot of cosmologists believe that universe started from nothing in that sense. So if it started from nothing, there was no space, there was no time, and yes. So laws have a Platonic existence prior to space and prior to time. So it's explanatory prior, but not temporally prior in that sense. So it's that quantum conditions may provide the right conditions for the universe getting created. So in that sense, so we can ask, did the universe have the beginning? Or there are one universes, or there are many universes? Yes. So these are the sort of questions in some renewed sense, how the spirit of science has evolved, if you want to see them in that discourses which are prevalent in physical sciences in that sense. So here I would say, so the way that dialogue of, for example, if you read Incoherence of Philosophers and Incoherence of Coherence, and if you read Incoherence of Philosophers and the Coherence of Arguments in the Incoherence of Philosophers, whereby Imam Ghazali has taken these, cemented these 20 points and 17 points. He has talked of materialists. He has talked of how he refutes them, and in an interesting way, there are some arguments of Ibn Rushd also. So you can see how people have attempted to see things in that sense. And so I'm sorry, Akul and Nakal. This is Maulana Shibir Usmani. Yes, I just yes. So yes. So it was some random sketch in that sense, whatever I have said today. So let me just conclude what I wanted to say today in that sense. So Iqbal, so the first lecture is that how Iqbal is also trying to see knowledge and religious experience. And knowledge, for example, and he, for example, one point which I am quoted, for example, the essence of a religion, on the other hand, is faith. Faith, like a bird, seeks its track its way, unattended by intellect, which, in the words of great mystic poet of Islam, only violates the living heart of man and robs it of invisible wealth that lies within. So you can say the poetic logic, or if there is at all a religious logic, because in Iqbal's sense, the religious logic is subservient to a religious way of looking at things. And if logic, language, and grammar, and certain situations which are their part of how poetic expression takes the form, it is sudden, it's intuitive, it encapsulates a form of reality. The way the religious reality is, in that sense, the highest form of that reality, in that sense. So yes, that's it. So where religion can hardly afford to ignore the search for the reconciliation of the opposites of experience and justification of an environment in which humanity finds itself. So that's an ultimate search and cry of human endeavor in that sense. And in that sense, the way the scientific consciousness is very analytical, it may not necessarily be intuitive. In the entire in the way intuition and reason should combine in the Iqbalian scheme of things, or Iqbalian way of looking at things, towards the broader appreciation of that reality which Iqbal wants to see. So this was maybe, I hope I had tried to convey some first few pages of how he tries to see in that sense the discourse is there maybe. So in the coming sense, maybe I'll just stop here, and in the coming lectures I'll just we can just come on this, we can just build on this further, and maybe some scholars, maybe for example Imam Ghazali and Imam Kant, there can be good there's a good discussion of there are few observations which we need to carry on, how these people are trying to address things in that sense. So I'll stop here, maybe hope you liked it. Thanks.